Stay with us. Let's now take you through the front pages of Nigerian newspapers to see what the headlines are saying and return quickly for a quick analysis of some of the major issues we will be seeing. The Nation newspaper is leading the way, and right there we're seeing an advertorial of some project in Yobe State, and the caption there right there says, Governor Buni is working, Yobe is moving. But at the top of that, we see Tinubu's performance impressive in key areas, say North leaders. Yesterday, we talked about that. That was the major focus on the different papers yesterday. But a different report we're seeing this morning. The Blueprint leads on the same matter, but something a little bit different right now. NNPCL rules out sale of Port Harcourt refinery. We talked about that yesterday with Dr. Maridotti. Maybe, you know, they heard us. The Punch newspaper is where we're going to next. And right here we see the FG's eyes 796 billion annually from 5% petrol surcharge. Okay, sounds like something economically good. This Nigeria shows us something around infrastructure. And what we see here, UBE, 27 states FCT assessed 78.6 billion naira grant by mid-2025. This is quoting the federal government. We'll tell you exactly what that means and how it affects all of us. News Direct on the same matter, a little bit different this morning. Kano Kaduna stranded gauge rail line ready for commissioning next year. The federal government is also still rolling out the scorecard of some of the achievements of the Tinubu-led administration. We'll talk more. The Guardian is where we're going to next. And right here, what we see is suspended school feeding initiative leaves 9 million pupils, 250,000 jobs stranded. The conversation around this humanitarian ministry seems not to have quailed. Well, we'll tell you a little bit more about that. And the leadership is taking us on another matter right here. Patients stranded as nurses, midwives strike hits hospitals nationwide. The minister is asking them to sheathe their swords at this time, but will they listen? We'll talk about it. Daily Trust takes us a little bit on security matters. Bandits on renewed rampage in Katsina State. It seems like you hold here, they come this other way. We'll tell you exactly what is going on right there. And the Platform Times leads us to another issue. Trafficking syndicates rack in, wow, look at this, $245 billion yearly. We just talked about it now. The federal government is raising alarm over rising exploitation. Who to nip this? We'll talk. And finally, we'll get to the sporting life. And we see here, Osime is finally making his decision. And so his medicals is holding today. That is the headliner on the sporting life. We'll talk. But Etoma, Veronica, and today, the lovely Olamide.
Thank you guys for having me.
Who is joining us? Etoma, the Nation is saying the president's performance in key areas, the northern leaders are saying that the president is done quite well in some areas. The region seeks more action in tackling out-of-school children menace. Is it the job of the federal government to do that, or the state government?
Out-of-school children mostly are primary school children.
That's right.
And in the sharing of all these things, primary schools are actually the forte of the local governments. The local governments, their autonomy has not been guaranteed yet, 1 year after the Supreme Court gave the judgment that says, let them have their autonomy. So that means that we shouldn't be asking the federal government to do this. We should be calling on our governors to take care of that. And Mr. President's achievements are fantastic in the North is a complete U-turn from what the Arewa Consultative Forum said yesterday. And I saw a breakdown of some of the things that the federal government has done, which includes over 130 roads tarred in the northern region and so on. Thank God that government officials from the north came out saying no way that Mr. President has done well so far. So now the details are coming, and seeing the data staring them in the face, I mean, they just have to make a U-turn.
You know, Veronica, sometimes we need to really call out the states, because I think as Nigerians, we're putting too much pressure at the center. Not that we should not in some aspect, but these are basic matters now. Out of school children, we're calling the federal government. I mean, what's going on here?
And that's because they have refused to take responsibility, and we as a people have refused to put them under pressure to ensure they deliver on their responsibility.
That's right.
We should know as a people who to direct our attentions to and who to call to account when certain things are not happening the way they should. And so often at time what you hear people do is point accusing fingers at the federal government as against looking at the states that is closer to the people, although not closest, and call them and hold them to account. Matters of education are handled by state governments. What are they doing? What is even their budget for these people? How have they been providing? Recently, I think 2 weeks ago, we're talking about how state governments have access to UBEC funds, Universal Basic Education funds, and are not using it as they should. And now government is looking at changing the framework for which they access these funds. Since they are not using it in the manner they should, they rather focus on projects that are not addressing the core needs of the people. So that is why we have been hammering on this table the intention or the fact that any government, be you state or federal, must address the needs of the people, something that is primarily that they need, primarily, as against just having projects that you just launch and nobody is making use of it. So it's important that this matters of education, that's the future of our society. If about 9 million people, we have even more than that. When we are talking about out-of-school children, the matters that we are dealing with, what happens to them? Where are our doctors of the future? If we have 9 million children out of school, and they are in varying phases, some primary, some do not even get into the secondary level. They have those phases. So it is something that we need to tackle head on.
We need to understand that we have different representatives in government across levels, from the local government to state House of Assembly members to reps and to the Senate representing constituents down to the governor before we get to the federal government. And so they are all there to serve the people. And sometimes we need to call ourselves to order and know what we're supposed to do. But let me take you to the Blueprint newspaper. This matter on the sale of the Nigerian refinery. They have come, NNPC is coming to say, no, we are not selling it. In fact, they've reaffirmed their commitments to the full rehabilitation of these refineries. Olamide, we have been crying about this for decades now. I don't know finally when we would see our refineries fully either refurbished or just build a new one.
Absolutely. It's great to see that the federal government is taking a stance and saying that they're not going to sell it. It's more than just a commercial asset. It's a strategic national instrument. That's it. If we want to ever get some sort of equilibrium with fuel prices, with subsidy, with using our natural resources, we're going to have to start producing. And it starts with taking a stance and saying, we're not going to sell this or outsource it. I think it's great. And I hope that accountability and transparency.
So which then brings the matter of, if Dangote is saying what he is saying, if we had our refineries across the country working, I don't think anybody would want to say, no, don't do this or don't do that.
We would not be as affected by the volatility of the global fuel chain if we retained our assets like we're planning to do with the Port Harcourt refinery.
If we're refining. And Ojulari said that starting to refine at the state at which the Port Harcourt refinery was ill-advised. And that's why they kept having breakdowns, which affected the image of the NNPCL, that now we have to finish this work, make sure the machine, if it's a car, the car is working before we even think about selling. But for now, selling is out of the table.
We're too comfortable outsourcing.
Well, for want of time, we need to add some speed to this now, ladies and gentlemen. But let me take you, Veronica, to the Punch newspaper. We're seeing right here, the federal government is eyeing 796 billion annually from 5% petrol surcharge. Okay, Is that going to give us more neck wrecks?
Who is going to be surcharged? That's the first question I want to ask.
I want to know the figures.
Well, it comes back to the consumers, but it begins with the oil marketers, because we had some tax bills that were signed into law by the president.
That's right.
There are 4 of them, and one of them, we know that the enforcement begins January the 1st, and so one of them is where this is recorded, where oil marketers will have to pay 5% surcharge to the federal government for it to shore up its non-oil revenue. That's the essence. And so once that surcharge comes, who do you think the oil marketers will transfer the surcharge to?
To me
you and I, who have vehicles. And then it begins to cascade down to every other person, affecting the prices of goods and services, because they were saying, you removed fuel subsidy. Why are you still surcharging us? And so that is where the confusion is. But at the end of the day, January 1st, is no longer far from us. And
Indeed.
so we might see a different price to petrol.
You know, Etom, I wish we could stay long on that, because there are other matters I wanted us to dig out of. But let me take you to this Nigeria. We saw the headline, but something else really interests me there. Is on politics. The ADC's bribery, claim, that's at the bottom of this Nigeria. The presidency is saying it's a desperate claim. And check this out. They challenge opposition party to name officials who allegedly offered them ministerial slots. The ADC is accusing the presidency, of bribery in appointing ministers into the cabinet.
It's very simple. If you accuse me, the onus is on you to prove.
That's
Show me
right.
evidence. You get what I'm saying? If you don't have evidence and it's just politics, then you are just blowing hot air.
but I'm asking you as if you are a member of the ADC. Is that how the ADC want to start?
It's like Olamide has an answer from some of the questions you are asking.
What we need to understand is that in politics, credibility and transparency is currency. You cannot come out and say there are bribery claims. What should now follow is the names. We want names and we want receipts.
And once you mention names, you have to bring evidence.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
The ADC is making itself look like the beautiful bride. And
Absolutely.
so they are trying to position themselves as the opposition that we need, since others are not speaking, like Labour Party and the PDP are not having anything substantial to speak about at this moment, because they are looking at their internal issues. And so the ADC feel that, okay, we can't start positioning ourselves as that opposition and want to get the attention of Nigerians. And so we need to make certain allegations that will draw the attention
to us.
to us. So if you have evidence,
Nigerians are not that gullible. We're going to ask who are the names.
Maybe a nice strategy. But allow me to, the Nigerian News Direct is, talking about the scorecard of the president again. The Kaduna-Kano Railway will be commissioned next year. They're citing major roads, health, infrastructure gains across northern Nigeria. This is in a bid to show that this administration has been doing a lot for the north.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times we forget that infrastructure isn't always just steel and cement and hardware. A lot of times it's strategy. We must plan the infrastructure. And so I know that a lot of Nigerians had some concerns that this 1 kilometer at a time infrastructure, they will do 2%. They will tell us. They do 10%. It's 1 kilometer at a time. And it's like, why should we be moving?
I don't like Olamide right now.
Why should we? And they said that I think before it had stopped at about 27% completion, and now it's up to 57%. Talk to me when you get to 100.
Right.
Talk to me when you're commissioning it.
50% completion, and now it is 53% completion.
53.
Remember that just yesterday we were talking about the fact that there were northern leaders who were complaining that they were being sidelined and neglected in this administration. And I spoke about the fact that because of, after the late Buhari died, that's why we're beginning to see some persons speak up because they want to feel his shoes. But now the minister came out to say that, no, that gauge that you said was promised you when this administration was campaigning, works are ongoing and it's in phases. As we often know, such projects go or happen in phases. And so this is where we are right now. I think that what should be done is that these people need to communicate and make people understand that whatever it is was promised you, this is where we are with these things, so they can understand that something is happening in the first place.
You're very right. It is an attempt at transparency.
Thomas, the Guardian newspaper, I'm just wondering, school feeding initiative. Is it that expensive?
My dear, it is. Let's do basic mathematics. 1 loaf of bread. For a school where
in today's Nigeria.
In today's Nigeria, for a school where we have like 400 children, and you have to buy 400. And then the other things that will go with the bread and so on. So in one day, you might be spending 3 to 4 million naira for one school. However, that project had so many problems. We saw photographs of the kind of food that these children were being served. We heard about a lot of under the table kind of deals that happened within lots and lots of corruption.
But I want to add this to you. Yeah. Is this project something that we need to sustain as a nation, feeding the children as the case may be?
Yeah, if we're a nation that has a very strong economy, I would advocate for it. Well, if we're a nation that had very good infrastructure, I would advocate for it. But for now, I don't think it's necessary.
You had free food when you was in nursery?
For where now with the pay?
No, I think I want the project to continue because that encourage. There is a chain ecosystem of persons who are working. There, you have to employ bakers, you have to employ cooks, you have to. The farmers too were benefiting from this program, and so a lot of things.
And according to the figures, about 250,000 jobs have been lost.
Yeah. So I think they should continue. And so it encouraged students to come to school and parents to send their children to school.
And Veronica, let's take you to the leadership newspaper where nurses have given a warning strike, and this is going to hit the hospitals nationwide.
Yeah, they began yesterday.
They began.
This matter is going to be wahala in our hands, so
yeah,
if
but the minister
home,
has asked that they come back to the table to have a conversation, and that's going to happen tomorrow. But I am wondering why they have to go on strike before we decide to continue a conversation we had begun. If there is a bottleneck, address the issue because we know how important they are to the system. It is because we leave conversations on the table without dealing with the root of the issues. That is why we keep having these matters lingering for so long. I think that the conversation that we should take care of whatever it is they are asking for. We should begin to improve beyond the less than 15% that we see for budgeting for healthcare and all. We need to improve on their monies. These people keep leaving the country, and we know the implication.
I wish we could stay long on that, but permit me to take you to the Daily Trust newspaper. This is on a matter of security now. Bandits are rampaging Katsina State at this time. Villages have been evicted and forced into a peace deal. Why are we still on this matter again over and over?
The whole point of a peace deal is to salvage what is left of the people and how they can regroup as communities. So that I'm hearing that they're being forced into peace deals. That is double trauma, if you ask me. Yeah. What we're seeing with banditry is the fact that they're constantly in flux. They go and they come out. It's almost seasonal. And so it's almost like a fire that we fail to put out and extinguish once and for all. And that's why this ash keeps on rising. Communities need to heal. They should not be forced into peace deals.
And that is why I would say that this matter of state policing should be addressed immediately.
Absolutely.
I think state governments are not putting their foot on the ground to addressing this matter as they should.
And Veronica, the Platform Times, if this is still an uprising from that same issue, NAPTIP have rescued 25,642 victims and have secured 750 convictions. This is around the issues of trafficking and so on. And we talked about that a bit earlier on. I mean, they said this looks like a modern slavery.
Absolutely.
Is this what is still going on here?
I think it's become a lucrative business, and because everybody is looking for how to get out of the country, that's why they are falling victim. So I think that we need to do more in tightening the news around how this is happening. We need to bring people to account. We need to hold people to account. Prosecutions should happen if we know those people who are exploiting a lot of persons regarding
this. Very quickly, I think that in the absence of commercial capital for starting businesses, we're now trying to deal in people. Unacceptable.
And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the sporting life. Osima's medical holds today, Nigeria already in Istanbul. Has he finally made his mind now and decided?
The deal is done. That's what it means.
After all the shakosi.
No, he wasn't shakosi.
Now.
I don't understand.
He missed the shakosi job.
No, he did not shakosi. It was.
He weighed his options.
No, he had made up his mind.
What is the meaning of shakosi?
I understand you're at a level, so I understand. But it's good to see that he's signing and going for his medicals and doing the needful right now. So we hope to be looking forward to watching him play on stage for this person.
Now, Nasima, remember, we was rooting for you to do this. So, Guy, when you finish, come to the table and tell us how it went.
Absolutely.
We'll sue you for corruption.